IAS Barber 60-Day Rapid Revision, Rare, Series UPSC IAS Prelims 2022. Daily Handouts. History. Day 3, Topics. 1. Chronology of Advent of Europeans. 2. Churaman Jat and Chatrasul. 3. Important ports and industrial destinations of 17th century India. 4. Chronology of Mughals after Aurangzeb. 5. Important products traded during 17th and 18th century. 6. Administration of Robert Clive. 7. Judicial and administrative reforms of Cornwallis. 8. End of EIC's monopoly, 1813 to 1857. 9. Subsidiary alliance, policy of ring fencing. 10. Portuguese in India, Goa elections. 11. Chronology of British conquest of India. 12. Indo, Myanmar and Afghan wars, Afghan crisis. 13. Anglo-Mysore war. 14. Anglo-Maratha war. 15. Carnatic war. ISBABA's 60 Days Rapid Revision Series, Rare, Notes, Day 3, History. 1. Chronology of Advent of Europeans. Arrival of Portuguese sailor Vasco da Gama arrived at Calicut, an important seaport located in southwest India, on May 20, 1498 AD. King Zamorin, the local rule, received him and bestowed on him certain privileges. With the establishment of trade links, Calicut, Cananore, and Cochin emerged the significant Portuguese centers in India. In 1505 AD, Francisco de Almeida was appointed as the first Portuguese governor in India. His policy, being centric on controlling the Indian Ocean, was known as the Blue Water Policy. By the end of the 16th century, the Portuguese captured not only Goa, Daman, Diu, and Salsette but also vast stretches along the Indian coast. The Portuguese rise in India had a short life, as the new rival trading communities from Europe posed a big challenge to them. Arrival of the British and the establishment of British East India Company was the outcome of the Portuguese traders, who earn enormous profit by selling their merchandise in India. The company received a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth I on December 31, 1600 AD, authorizing it to trade in the East. In 1608 AD, the East India Company sent Captain William Hawkins to the court of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir to secure royal patronage. He succeeded in getting a royal permit for the company to establish its factories at various places on the western coast of India. Then in 1615 AD, Sir Thomas Roe was sent by Emperor James I of England to Jahangir's court, with a plea for more concession for the company. After establishing its factories in the South and West India, the company started to focus on East India, particularly Bengal, a significant province Mughal Empire. Rise of the Dutch. The Dutch founded their first factory in Masulipatam in Andhra Pradesh in 1605. The Dutch, during their stay in India, tried their hands on the minting of coinages. Dutch presence on the Indian subcontinent lasted from 1605 AD to 1825 AD. Arrival of the French. The last European people to arrive in India were the French. The French East India Company was formed in 1664 AD during the reign of King Louis XIV to trade with India. In 1674 AD, the French obtained a village called Pondicherry from the Sultan of Bijapur and founded a thriving city on it, which later became the main stronghold of the French in India. The French East India Company took hold of Yanam in 1723 AD, May on Malabar coast in 1725 AD, and Karaikal in 1739 AD. 2. Churaman Jat and Chatrasul. Churaman Jat 1695-1721. Jat power in Bharatpur strengthened during Badan Singh and Churaman. Around 1707, Churaman built fort of Thun and established his kingdom. Farrukhsiyar titled Churaman as Io Bahadur. Chatrasul Maharaja Chatrasul Bundala, the 4th of May 1649 to the 20th of December 1731, was a king from Bundala Kshatriya clan of Rajputs. He resisted the Mughal Empire and established his independent kingdom in Bundelkhand till the end of his reign. Chatrasul made several attempts to ask the Baji Ioi, the Peshwa of Maratha Empire, for help. However, the Peshwa was busy and could not help Chatrasul until March 1729. 3. Important ports and industrial destinations of 17th century India. Trade and industry. India was self-sufficient in handicrafts and agricultural products, thus didn't import much. But we exported the same. So, export was higher than import. By 1623, English East India Company had established factories at Surat, Broach, Ahmedabad, Agra, and Masulipatam. In 1668 AD, the French established their first factory at Surat, and in 1669 AD established another French factory at Masulipatam. The French East India Company developed its trade bastions at May, Karaikal, Balasar, and Kasim Bazar. Dutch East India Company set up first factory at Masulipatam in 1605. Other Dutch factories were at Pulicat, Chinsura, Kasim Bazar, Patna, Balasore, Surat, Karaikal, Nagapattinam and Cochin. In 1616 AD, the Danish East India Company established their first factory at Tranquebar in Tamil Nadu, 1620, and Serampa in Bengal, 1676. Items of import. Persian Gulf region, pearls, raw silk, wool, dates, dried fruits, and rose water. Arabia, coffee, gold, drugs, and honey. China, tea, sugar, porcelain, and silk. Tibet, gold, musk, and woolen cloth. Africa, ivory and drugs. Europe, woolen cloth, copper, iron, lead and paper. 4. Chronology of Mughals after Aurangzeb. Bahadur Shah I, also known as Muazzam Shah Alam I, 1707–1712, after his reign, the empire went into steady decline due to the lack of leadership qualities among his immediate successors. He released Shahuji, son of Shambhuji, who was the elder son of Shivaji. Jahandar Shah 1712–1713 was an unpopular, incompetent titular figurehead. Farrukhzia 1713–1719 his reign marked the ascendancy of the manipulative Syed brothers, execution of the rebel Banda. In 1717 he granted a firman to the English East India Company, granting them duty-free trading rights for Bengal. The firman was repudiated by the notable Murshid Suli Khan. Rafi Uldurjat 1719 the 10th Mughal emperor. He succeeded Farrukhzia, being proclaimed Badshah by the Syed brothers. Rafi ud-Daulat 1719 was Mughal emperor for a brief period in 1719. Muhammad Ibrahim, claimant to the throne, 1720 brother of Rafi Uldurjat, attempted to seize the throne at the behest of the Syed brothers. In order to depose Emperor Muhammad, Shah Muhammad Shah, also called Rangeela, 1719–1748 got rid of the Syed brothers, countered the emergence of the renegade Marathas and lost large tracts of the Deccan and Malwa in the process. Suffered the invasion of Nadir Shah of Persia in 1739. Ahmed Shah Bahadur 1748–1754 son of Muhammad Shah. His minister Safdarjung was responsible for the Mughal civil war. He was defeated at Sikandarabad by the Maratha Confederacy. Alamja II 1754–1759 he was murdered by a conspiracy of Imad ul Mulk and his Maratha associate Sadashivrao Bau Shah Jahan III 1759–1760 he was overthrown after the Third Battle of Panipat by Prince Mirza Jawan Bakht. Shah Alam II 1760–1806 he is known to have fought against the British East India Company during the Battle of Buxar and reformed the Mughal army under the command of Mirza Najaf Khan. He is thus known as one of the last effective Mughal emperors. Akbar Shah II 1806–1837 he designated Mir Fatih Ali Khan Talpa as the new Nawab of Sindh. Although he was under British protection, his imperial name was removed from the official coinage after a brief dispute with the British East India Company. Bahadur Shah II, 1837–1857, he was the last Mughal emperor. He was deposed by the British and exiled to Burma following the Indian Rebellion of 1857. 5. Important products traded during 17th and 18th century. Cotton textiles, raw silk and silk fabrics, hardware, indigo, saltpeter, opium, rice, wheat, sugar, pepper and other spices, precious stones, and drugs. Important centers of textile industry: Dhaka, Murshidabad, Patna, Surat, Ahmedabad, Broach, Chanderi, Burhanpur, Jaunpur, Varanasi, Lucknow, Agra, Multan, Lahore, Masulapatnam, Aurangabad, Chikakol, Vishakhapatnam, Bangalore, Coimbatore, Madurai, etc. Kashmir was a center of woolen manufactures. Shipbuilding industry: Maharashtra, Andhra, and Bengal were the leaders in shipbuilding. The Zamorin of Calicut used the Muslim Kanjali Maraikars, who were well known for their seafaring ability, for his navy. Shivaji's navy was one of the best in region. 6. Administration of Robert Clive. Robert Clive was the governor of Bengal from 1757 to 60 and from 1765–67. He amassed a great personal fortune in India and returned to Britain in 1760. He returned to India in 1765 as governor and commander-in-chief of Bengal. He started a society of trade in 1765, but it was later abolished. The Battle of Buxar was fought between the British and the combined forces of Mir Qasim, Shuja ud-Daulah, the Nawab of Awadh, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. The British won this battle. As a result of this battle, the Diwani, right to collect revenue, of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha was granted to the British by the Mughal Emperor in return for an annual sum of money and Allahabad and Kora districts. Robert Clive, who could have had Awadh as well, refrained from annexing it. He intended to use it as a buffer state between the British and the Marathas. He has been denounced by many in India for the atrocities he heaped upon its peasantry by imposing high taxes and forcing them to cultivate only cash crops, leading to famines. Robert Clive faced censure in England upon his return due to the mass amount of personal fortune he accumulated during his stay in India. 7. Judicial and administrative reforms of Cornwallis. Service reforms to reduce corruption in the country. Cornwallis was given the authority related to services offered by the East India Company. He established rules which allowed only qualified persons to get into the services irrespective of their connections with higher authorities. Top posts were reserved for the Europeans, whereas Indians were offered lower grade posts such as peons and clerks. Private trade of the company was abolished completely. Judiciary reforms. Cornwallis established courts in the districts, provinces, and states. The highest court was the Supreme Court of Calcutta. There were separate courts for civil and criminal cases. Cornwallis abolished court fees, and then lawyers were to prescribe their fees. Government servants could be sued by people for their mistakes. He also banned torturous punishments like the chopping off of limbs, nose and ears. Police reforms. He took the control of the police from the hands of the landlords to the district superintendent of police. He established thanas to maintain law and order. In 1789, he proclaimed that people practicing slavery would be prosecuted by law. 8. End of EIC's monopoly, 1813 to 1857. The Charter Act of 1833. The Charter Act of 1813, for the first time explicitly defined the constitutional position of the British territories in India. This act also made provisions to grant permission to the persons who wished to go to India for promoting moral and religious improvements. This act regulated the company's territorial revenues and commercial profits. The company debt was to be reduced and dividend was fixed at 10.5% per annum. There was also a provision that companies should invest 1 rupee lakh every year on the education of Indians. This act also empowered the local governments to impose taxes on the persons subject to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Thus, the Charter Act of 1813 ended the monopoly of the East India Company in India. However, the company's monopoly in trade with China and trade in tea was remained intact. The Charter Act of 1835. The company's commercial activities were closed down. It was made into an administrative body for British Indian possessions. The company's trade links with China were also closed down. 9. Subsidiary alliance, policy of ring fencing. Subsidiary alliance. The subsidiary alliance in India was planned by Lord Wellesley, but this term was introduced by French Governor Dupleix. An Indian ruler entering into subsidiary alliance with the British had to dissolve his own armed forces and accept British forces in his territory. He also had to pay for the British Army's maintenance. If he failed to make the payment, a portion of his territory would be taken away and ceded to the British. In return, the British would protect the Indian state against any foreign attack or internal revolt. The British promised non-interference in internal affairs of the Indian state, but this was rarely kept. The Indian state could not enter into any alliance with any other foreign power. He could also not employ any other foreign nationals other than Englishmen in his service. And, if he were employing any, on the signing of the alliance, he had to terminate them from his service. The idea was to curb the influence of the French. The Indian state could also not enter into any political connection with another Indian state without British approval. The Indian ruler, thus, lost all powers in respect of foreign affairs and the military. He virtually lost all his independence and became a British protectorate. A British resident was also stationed in the Indian court. Effects of the subsidiary alliance. As a result of Indian rulers disbanding their armies, many people were rendered unemployed. Many Indian states lost their independence and slowly, most parts of India were coming under British control. The Nizam of Hyderabad was the first to accept the subsidiary alliance in 1798. Lord Clive also introduced the subsidiary system in Oudh, and the Treaty of Allahabad was signed, where the British promised the Oudh territory from enemies like Marathas. Policy of ring fencing. The ring fence policy was a doctrine enacted by Warren Hastings which involved defending their neighbours' frontiers in order to safeguard their own territories. This was reflected in the East India Company's war against the Marathas and the Mysore Kingdom. 10. Portuguese in India, Goa elections. The 1967 Goa Status Referendum, popularly known as the Goa Opinion Poll, was a referendum held in newly annexed Union Territory of Goa and Damayan in India, on the 16th January 1967. The referendum, backed by United Goans Party, offered the people of Goa a choice between continuing as a separate territory of India, or merging with the large Marathi-speaking state of Maharashtra, the latter being the agenda of the Maharashtrawadi Gomantak Party. It is the only referendum to have been held in independent India. The people of Goa voted against the merger and Goa continued to be a union territory. Subsequently, in 1987, Goa became a full-fledged state within the Indian Union. 11. Chronology of British conquest of India. Year major incident. 1600 The East India Company, EIC, is formed, 1600. 1615 The company acquires its first territory in Bombay. 1748 Anglo-French War in India. 1757 War of Plassey. 1792 The EIC defeats the Marathas and Tipu Sultan of Mysore. 1806 Mutiny at Vellore. 1857 First Indian War of Independence. 1858 End of Mughal rule in India and British Crown takes over India, beginning of the Raj. 1869 Mahatma Gandhi born in Porbandar, Gujarat, October 2, 1877 Queen Victoria becomes the Empress of India. 1885 Indian National Congress is formed. 1897 Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. 1914 The Great War breaks out in Europe. 1919 Jallianwala Bagh Massacre. Parliament passes the Rowlatt Acts. 1939 World War II breaks out with Germany's invasion of Poland. 1947 India and Pakistan become self-governing. 12. Indo-Myanmar and Afghan Wars, Afghan Crisis. Indo-Myanmar Wars. War between outcomes First Burma War, 1824-26, Burmese vs English Treaty of Yandabu, 1826. British won Second Burma War, 1824-26, Burmese vs English Proclamation of Annexation of Lower Burma, Pegu, on December 20, 1852 Third Burma War, 1885, Burmese vs English Upper Burma was merged in India. Indo-Afghan Wars. War between outcomes First Anglo-Afghan War, 1839-42, Afghans vs English British won the war but couldn't control it so was given back to local ruler with some conditions Second Anglo-Afghan War, 1870-80, Afghans vs English Treaty of Gandamak, 1879, British captured but later decided to keep Afghanistan as buffer state. 13. Anglo-Mysore War. Mysore War causes of war Treaty First Anglo-Mysore War, 1767-69. Mysore's proximity with the French and Hyder Ali's control over the rich trade of the Malabar coast threatened the political and commercial interests of the English and their control over Madras. The British, after their success in the Battle of Buxar with the Nawab of Bengal, signed a treaty with the Nizam of Hyderabad persuading him to give them the northern Sirkars for protecting the Nizam from Hyder Ali who already had disputes with the Marathas. The treaty provided for the exchange of prisoners and the conquered areas. Hyder Ali was promised the help of the English in case he was attacked by any other power. Second Anglo-Mysore War, 1780-84. The British failed to adhere to the Treaty of Madras when Mysore was attacked by the Maratha army in 1771. Moreover, Hyder Ali found the French more resourceful in terms of fulfilling the army requirements of guns, saltpeter and lead. Hyder Ali died of cancer on December 7, 1782. Fed up with an inconclusive war, both sides opted for peace, negotiating the Treaty of Mangalore, March, 1784, under which both the parties gave back the territories they had taken from each other. Third Anglo-Mysore War, 1790-92. The Third Anglo-Mysore War began when Tipu attacked Travancore, an ally of the English and the only source of pepper for the East India Company. The war was concluded with the Treaty of Seringapatam, 1792. The Third Anglo-Mysore War destroyed Tipu's dominant position in the south and firmly established British supremacy there. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799. The war began on April 17, 1799 and ended on May 4, 1799 with the fall of Seringapatam. Tipu was defeated first by British General Stuart and then by General Harris. Tipu Sultan died in the war and all his treasures were confiscated by the British. The British chose a boy from the earlier Hindu royal family of Mysore as the Maharaja and also imposed the subsidiary alliance system on him. 14. Anglo-Maratha War. War causes Treaty First Anglo-Maratha War, 1775-1779. Death of Madhav Io resulted in fighting among the Marathas. English used this for their advantage. In 1777, Nana Fadnavis went against a treaty signed with the Calcutta Council and granted a port on the west coast to the French. There was a battle at Wadgaon near Pune in which the Marathas under Mahaji Shinde secured a decisive victory over the English. The English were forced to sign the Treaty of Wadgaon in 1779. Second Anglo-Maratha War, 1803-2005. Participants in the war, Scindias, Bonsals, Holkars versus the English internal squabbles among Maratha houses. In the Battle of Pune in 1802, Yashwant Io Holkar, the chief of the Holkars of Indore defeated the Peshwas and the Scindias. Baji Io too sought British protection and signed the Treaty of Basein with them. The Scindias and the Bonsals did not accept this treaty and this caused the Second Anglo-Maratha War in central India in 1803. All the Maratha forces were defeated by the British in these battles. As a result of the war, large parts of central India came under British control. Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1817-18. Participants in the war, The Maratha chiefs Peshwa Bajira II, Malarao Holkar and Mudoji II Bonsal forged a united front against the English. Cause of the war. The chief reason for this war was the British conflict with the Pindaris, whom the British suspected were being protected by the Marathas. The British won decisively. An obscure descendant of Chhatrapati Shivaji was placed as the ceremonial head of the Maratha Confederacy at Satara. This was the last major war fought and won by the British. With this, the British controlled most parts India directly or indirectly. 15. Carnatic War. War causes treaty. First Carnatic War, 1740–48. It was an extension of the Anglo-French rivalry in Europe, Austrian War of Succession. Madras was handed back to the English, and the French, in turn, got their territories in North America. This war is remembered for the Battle of St. Thomé, in Madras, fought between the French forces and the forces of Anwar-ud-Din, the Nawab of Carnatic, an ally of English. Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, 1748. Second Carnatic War, 1749–54. Regional dynastic disputes were used as pseudo-war fronts by French and English. The war remained inconclusive, but it undermined the French power in South India vis-à-vis the English. French faced heavy financial losses, so they were called Dupleix Treaty of Pondicherry in 1755. Third Carnatic War, 1758–63. Background: 7 Years' War, 1856–63, in Europe. Course of war in India. In 1758, the French army captured the English forts in 1758. English inflicted heavy losses on the French. Fleet General Ercout of the English totally routed the French army under Arthur de Lowley and took Bussy as prisoner. Decisive war, known for the Battle of Wandiwash, 1760–61, Tamil Nadu. The French were allowed to use Indian settlements for only commercial purposes. And fortification of settlements was banned. The victory at Wandiwash left the English East India Company with no European rival in India. Treaty of Paris, 1763.